one of the worst job titles in the world is the head of innovation. For me, innovation isn't a title, it's a culture. It's important that people of a certain generation are flexible and can easily adopt or be trained to adopt.
And do you feel like we're in a moment now where the industry is having to reinvent itself?
If you even think it, we've always done it that way, you are going to get left behind. It doesn't matter which country, which company, what you are, you're going to get left behind.
So welcome to the Good, the Bad, the PropTech. I am delighted today to be joined by Clive Lucking, the man who is the CEO of the Studio Alliance, a group that I've been fortunate enough to talk to, who brings together some industry-leading design and build companies from across Europe and essentially does knowledge sharing and expertise across a variety of things within the design and build industry, and has more than 30 years experience in the world of D&B.
It'll be 40 years next year, would you believe?
Wow, amazing.
I know, I don't look that old.
You don't look that old, you look fantastic. And really today was kind of to go through a lot of things to do with property technology and obviously the respective hats you've worn along the way, and hopefully uncover a few of the gems of things that are top of the agenda and maybe debate some of the reasons why things aren't at the top of the agenda. So yeah, Clive, thanks so much for coming in.
Look forward to it.
Yeah. Well, look, I think would be probably a good place to start is if you can probably introduce what Studio Alliance is as a bit of a context of what you've been doing, what you've laid, and where you guys are going now.
Yeah. So the last few years have been absolutely incredible. So we launched Studio Alliance just over 5 years or so ago.
Yeah.
And as the name suggests, we are an alliance of businesses. We have 18 members. It's a membership organization. We have 18 members across Europe, covering something like 33 different countries. The combined turnover of the members is just over €1 billion.
Wow.
So there's a lot of experience there. And I have the fortunate role of kind of bringing everybody together, corralling everybody together. You're right, knowledge share, innovation share, potentially sharing clients' opportunities when those opportunities exist. And it's been so rewarding because I've spent the first 35 odd years or so in the UK, really just focusing on projects within 100 miles of London.
Yeah.
And since we launched the Alliance, it's been all across Europe. Southernmost point is south of Spain, Turkey. Northernmost point we've got Copenhagen, and everybody in between. So yeah, it's really rewarding. A lot of difference, a lot of diversity, but also a lot more commonality than one would expect.
Okay, good. Well, that's really exciting. I think that breadth of experience is definitely something I hope we can tap into today when it comes to discussing the wonderful world of property technology.
Yes.
And just before we started recording, I sort of said design and build contractors and occupiers, like what do they both see in similarities? You're like, whoa. They're two very distinctive things. You can't kind of bundle them in together. So I suppose it's kind of a starting question of the world of property technology and design and build. Where is that today? Is it at the forefront? Are you breaking ground, or do you still feel like you're trying to figure out what the hell PropTech is?
Well, I think the design and build industry, and I'll just say the fitting out, design and fitting out of offices, it doesn't just have to be design and build. Across Europe is probably the same as every industry with technology. And by that, I mean, you have early adopters, you have those that didn't necessarily early adopt, but are now absolutely investing in as well. And then you have those that are slow off the mark. Yeah. And some are big, some are small. There's not one size fits all. But what I can definitely say is the industry has changed, hugely over the last 30, 40 years. I mean, when I started in the industry, I remember the first company I worked for, the designers would design with stencil and tracing paper. Yeah. And that is no exaggeration. And I remember when we first started using CAD, it was a selling point, just actually telling a client you could design using some sort of a computer to get a design. And now AI are producing space plans, multiple options, multiple colors, 3-dimension in milliseconds. So, just taking how space planning has gone has just been incredible. And if you follow that through in all aspects of the fit out world, it's been absolutely revolutionary, as it has been in society.
Yeah. Well, I suppose in keeping up with all the different things that are coming through, is there anything when it comes to physical assets or when you're going into buildings, is the interrogation expectation, is it still design focused, or has the operational technology part made its way into the to-do list of designers?
So when one goes to sell a fit out project, we're invariably, there's competitive tension.
Yeah.
That exists. So what are you actually selling? You're really selling a dream, because you're not selling a product. You can't say, here is your office. There's not something tangible like you're buying a car. You can test drive all the models and make your selection. You're selling a vision. So how you articulate that vision is critical.
Mm.
And as I say, going back several years, there used to be color boards. There may be some visual sketches done by hand, artistic impressions. But now the three-dimensional walk through the design process can literally give the client every aspect of what that office will look like, whether it's day or night, whether they change the color of the carpet, whether they turn the lights on brighter or less. So the design process is embedded with technology.
Yeah.
But what you can't take away is the human touch, because no one yet feels comfortable buying from a robot or from a computer. We often say people buy from people. I think that's true across all industries.
Yeah.
But I think you have to find that magic of the say the head of design or the lead designer being a figurehead in a really, really strong team, but supported by technology. And then everything else which goes on to the costings, the delivery,
Yeah.
supply chain, etc. But at the forefront, it is definitely, in my opinion, design is where you win or lose a project, I think, in the design phase of a project. Cost, if you're competing with like-minded businesses, there isn't really a great deal of cost differential between you. We're all the businesses are making pretty much the same margins. But what is different is how you kind of get the client excited. They get excited not by a spreadsheet of numbers. They get excited by a vision, and how you bring that vision together has been it's what's for me the single most important part of technology within fit out, design and build is bringing that design alive.
Yeah. And has there been big trends as far as like if you can visualize it and you can show and you can change and tweak it, does it make it harder to kind of sell the dream because the person can customize it on the fly and you might have three people with different visions? Is that kind of half of the fun of what you get to do is listen to it?
I think the designers feel more threatened, if I say, because they're the people who are the creatives. They're the people who've gone through, years of experience, university experience, and really have got these creative juices. And if they thought their role was being taken away by technology, and some of them definitely do think that's the case, they're the ones who feel they've got the most to lose. But for me, it's how they embrace the technology is going to be the magic for that design studio, wherever it is. So how you create a differentiator, because if everybody's got the same AI program to produce their designs, what creates the differentiator? It's the human touch.
Yeah.
So we have to have the technology, but you also have to have the human touch.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's very good to hear for those working in the industry that they don't have to worry too much about AI taking their jobs. I suppose it's probably the same rhetoric, which is it should allow those people to do more with the time they have and more effectively.
Absolutely. And I think the people who don't embrace technology, particularly in the design world, will be out of a job.
Yeah.
I really believe that. I think it's if they embrace it and move forward with it, that they're going to be the designers who succeed.
Yeah.
But if a designer kind of insists that I can do it better on, I've always done it, I think night follows day, they'll be made redundant. It may not be tomorrow, may not be next week, might be 5 years time, but things change. And it's almost like the accountant who said, I don't want to use a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I want to keep using my ledgers. Well, no one uses ledgers anymore.
Yeah, for good reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose then on the other side of the coin, occupiers in bringing the design to life. There's been a huge talk around the hotelification for office spaces, specifically in the UK. And when it comes to the occupier wants, sustainability has clearly been at the forefront of all businesses.
Yeah.
Is there any other?
Not all businesses, all credible businesses.
Interesting.
I mean, I think that some businesses just pay lip service to it and absolutely don't do it. Some countries, talking about my European role, some countries are really, really, fast out the blocks and hot on the heels. You go to Scandinavia, I think they're way ahead of some countries. You go to other countries, I'm not naming names, where sustainability and ESG is lip service or not even talked about. So it really isn't everywhere.
It's not a blanket. This is the most important thing that we have to make sure we're ticking this box for you.
And you have someone like, the president of the USA who clearly has got different views about where different priorities lie. And undoubtedly some corporations will follow that lead and others won't.
Yeah. Within that then, there's always themes, or there seem to be themes in office design and things that are coming through. And is technology and data, is that part of above and beyond the design iteration? Is there any questions coming around about connectivity, about occupancy data and sensors and air quality? Are those things coming on the list of requirements, or is that still on page 20 of the requests?
So if you took air quality, that would be a really good one. So air quality as an example, how do you convince a CEO or a CFO that air quality is going to make them more profitable? Okay, that's not an easy thing to do. So you would have to work through it and explain it that, better air is going to increase productivity over a period of time. It's going to maybe make your staff feel more healthy. It's going to make them feel better about themselves, better about the space. Okay, so if you focus on air quality sensors, you're focusing on the wrong thing. You should be focusing upon giving your staff the best office that you can for your budget, because it's all about everything's budgeted, and potentially quality of air should be right up there because we're breathing it all of the time. That might be more important than actually whether you've got shiny wall covering or not. But
preaching to the converted here. But
exactly.
But do you find that you're leading the conversations around why it's important, or they're coming to you to say, this is important to us, we have to embed data and technology into our designs, or is it who's leading it?
Well, as with all projects, if you have, let's just say, a very experienced property director, head of real estate, who understands the benefits and who works across a portfolio across Europe or internationally, they do come and they say, this is important for us and this is the reason why it's important. If you're a single occupier of, just round the corner from here in central London of 50 people and it's a single occupancy office, it's quite possible that there isn't a dedicated head of real estate. It's the office manager or the CFO or the HR director or whomever, but somebody who's got, let's say, a day job to do and is doing the office move or the office refurbishment as a byproduct. They don't know what they don't know. No one knows what they don't know. So if you start kind of baffling with tech, you can see they get switched off. So it's a very fine line between how do you introduce the concept of smart office, lots of technology into the office. Again, what's important? Where does it fit within the budget? In some companies, really prioritize it and some don't. And fit out businesses, design and build businesses, where we might be able to move the dial slightly, but we're not going to take somebody on a 180-degree turn. So for me, the landlords have got a massive role to play because they're the people who've got a huge investment. They're looking, multi-tenanted buildings. So start the building process off correctly. Get the right tech in there that makes sense, that has value. Don't fill it full of stuff that doesn't really matter. Make sure it's credible, important, has an ROI.
What would you qualify as filling it full of stuff then on your travels around central offices? Don't name names unless you want to.
No. I couldn't name names because I wouldn't. I'm not qualified to. But I was at the PropTech conference, which is a brilliant event, and you walk around there, and there is a sensor for everything. They can send that. If you wanted to buy 10 different sensors, you could buy 10 different sensors. And some will say, well, we can do what these 3 sensors do. So I think there's a lot of sensors out there in the market, and I'm not sure that we need to measure everything that is on offer. And so I was fortunate enough to be invited to speak, and I spoke from an angle of somebody who says, do we need all this stuff? Do we need it all? I mean, I know to create innovation and create, tomorrow you have to invent it and you have to see what works and what doesn't work. So that's absolutely fine. But some of the stuff that's out there, I said it's like the emperor's new clothes. You don't necessarily need it, and that's not particular about any one thing. When I was buying my most recent car, we went out and we test drove them, and the cell on a new car now is so different to 20 years ago. I mean, completely different. I mean, you're being sold what the computer can do for you now.
Yeah.
It's not miles per gallon really, or battery life, or I mean, that's important, but safety. They're all brand new cars of a certain value of safety, all ticking all the boxes. It's what does the computer do? What can you bolt on? What add-ons can you have? It was a big part of the sales process, which just didn't exist.
But do you not think then on that proxy, would it not make sense that if a smart building was, if you're looking at buying a car, which you'll probably use less than your office space, how do we bridge that gap between articulating, I agree with you, don't need every single sensor in a building because it would be death by sensor and data. And I think there's some great examples of buildings that had too much data in them and actually scaled it back, not the other way around. But how far are we away from the journey of the buying experience or the move-in experience being like a car where you're talking about the technology and it's a selling point as opposed to it being something that is just not on the agenda?
I think that the grade A buildings, it is absolutely part of that journey. That's my experience. You go into some of the new buildings anywhere in Europe, they're set up for the future, and undeniably the technology that's going into that should be future proofing. The difficulty for anybody who's even certainly non-techie, but even the techie world, how do you know what's going to be obsolete with the technology that's going in there? So having something which is scalable, bolt-onable, if no such word, but
you can make it a word.
Make it a word. I think that's really the key, and rather than just spend and then it's obsolete. But you don't know what you don't know. And I'm not sure how prevalent that is in prop tech at the moment. I think everyone's selling what they've got, but are they really selling a solution that you're going to be able to easily add on and increase and turn the dial up with gradually? I'm sure it does exist.
I bet the thing for me that's very interesting, obviously having been a former agent, is about how we take this very complicated, fragmented technologies in buildings and how we make it into something that feels tangible and relevant to somebody, and how you communicate. I think the air quality analogy is absolutely right. It's like, it's not really about the sensor, it's about the well-being of people. And that translation of it being part of the conversation as opposed to a dark art left between the CFO and HR manager to go, we've got this pack of information about these sensors in a building. We don't really know what it is. Like, I suppose our thing is about being able to articulate something. If you can't explain something, you don't really understand it.
So maybe this is a question back to somebody who comes from the real estate industry. If you are the letting agent at some of the amazing buildings that are all around Europe, when you have a viewing from a prospective grade A tenant, do you have a techie expert to assist with the viewing that can talk on a technical level? Or do you have, I'll say, a real estate expert who knows about buildings but doesn't know about tech, who then tries to show you on a dial and on a screen what the building can do, but doesn't really understand it, him or herself? So I think there's an opportunity there to educate people about what they're buying from a technology point of view, rather than somebody who doesn't understand it try and explain it. Does that make sense?
No, totally. If the person trying to explain to you wasn't part of that journey, doesn't understand it, doesn't understand what impacts a business, you're going to have two very confused people, and then the experience you're trying to achieve will just be that was just noise. I mean, I think the aspiration normally for most people is you want to give that person a viewing something they take to the next viewing and say, I've just heard about this piece of AI technology at this building address. Do you guys have that here? I mean, that's clearly...
But also understand what it is that they've seen.
They can't explain to the next building. They definitely didn't understand it. I think from a general trend then, so would it be safe to say that the innovation's still quite fragmented? It's not a de facto, because sustainability is a bit all over the place. Carbon reporting, I thought, might be an obvious trend to ask those questions about, but it's still sector by sector, as opposed to everyone going, I need to know about these three things in a building, otherwise it's a no from me.
I think that's absolutely true. And throughout Europe, where the Studio Alliance members are designing and fitting out the buildings, you see a real difference about how people interpret innovation as well. Innovation isn't just about technology. And I give you an example. If I go into Eastern Europe, where when I was at school, Eastern Europe was an area that you just didn't even know it really existed. It was, part behind the Iron Curtain. Since the wall came down and a completely different tone in that part of the world, innovation is seen so differently to in the UK. And so what I mean by that is I co-founded a fit out business in the UK. We then started a traditional contracting business. We then started a furniture business. We then started a design house. Everything was kind of interwoven and it all made kind of sense to us. Our members in one of the countries in Eastern Europe, they started a fit out business. They were ex property professionals like yourself, so quite an easy thing to go into. One of them had a keen interest in skiing, so opened a ski shop. One keen interest in cycling, opened a bike shop below the fit out office. They then recognized that the medical situation in that country isn't as good as it can be in other countries and started fitting out and creating medical practices for people to come in the same building. So you then have a situation where somebody starts off in office interiors, runs medical practices, ski shops, and bikes. Now, for me, that's really innovative. That is truly spotting gaps in the market, using your business skills, very wide portfolio, and very, very innovative. Now, in the UK, I wouldn't have dreamt of, I have lots of passions myself, but I wouldn't have thought, oh, I like this and like that. I think we stay in our lane.
Yeah.
And in Eastern Europe, they don't have a lane. They don't seem to have the same boundaries. They don't seem to have the same vision. It's almost like, well, why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? And innovation there is so different.
Yeah. So with people staying in their lane, then, do you think that is where if you had a head of innovation or an innovation lead within a larger business, is that role more valid in the UK because that's their lane, or is that the right or wrong thing?
So I think one of the worst job titles in the world is the head of innovation. Okay. So I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
If you think it is the responsibility of a person to be innovative, you are completely missing the point. Completely. So for me, innovation isn't a title, it's a culture.
Okay.
And if you have to have a head of innovation, that suggests it's that person's responsibility to be innovative. So for me, you need to embed a culture of innovation in a business from the top to the bottom, left and right. Innovation is about a culture.
Yeah.
And you have to therefore, as the owners or the leaders of a business, create the platform and the opportunity for people to be innovative. And that will be interpreted in very different ways. If you're a legal practice, how you're innovative is going to be very different than if you're a marketing agency, how you're innovative. But if you were just saying, oh, it's down to the head of innovation to be innovative, you're missing the point hugely, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's like for me, having the head of AI is the same as the head of IT. They're linked, but they're really different to me. One is about creating a culture. You've got to get a business which is comfortable using AI, whatever route that might be. But IT is potentially about the infrastructure and the systems that you're operating and the platforms you're operating as a business. The two are linked, but they're not the same.
Yeah.
So for me, innovation has to be about creating the right culture in a business.
Within real estate, innovation roles do exist.
Yeah, I'm sure. Everywhere.
Yeah. So real estate has multiple stakeholders that have vested interest in it. The owner, the occupiers, and the operators in a business. If they're all staying in their innovation lanes, then we've got a bit of a problem.
Yes.
But you need all of them on the same innovation journey.
Yeah.
So do you think there's a role for a holistic innovation between different stakeholders, or is it has to be each of those individuals in a building has to have a culture of innovation to actually bring the whole real estate industry forward?
I think if you've got three stakeholders in any sort of project, they've got to come together. Somehow they've got to come together.
Yeah.
And ultimately in a building, the tenant pays for everything. But even if the landlord may have written the check to start with, ultimately the rents or whatever. Yeah. So the tenant is the person who's footing the bill for everything in that building.
Yeah.
So what's going into that building has got to work for the tenant first and foremost. But doesn't mean to say people don't have a reason for wanting to know different bits of information. But I think head of innovation, it just to me is just the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
But I'm not on a soapbox. I'm
not. No, not at all. No, it's say you're more entitled to your opinion. I think it's really interesting that thread because one of the closing questions is who should be leading the innovation drive in real estate? Is it the owners, the operators, or the occupiers?
Yeah.
And you might have given your answer, but
well, I definitely think the tenant has got the largest share of that.
yeah,
But clearly that it's not solely down to them. I think that all of the stakeholders have got to be aligned, and I think that's probably where high caliber consultants can bring things together and think from a tenant's perspective and think from an owner's perspective,
yeah,
rather than think we've got to sell this into the building and don't care what the occupier wants when they move in a year or two's time.
yeah,
And then somebody moves in a year or two's time and then goes, well, why is all this stuff in here? We don't need any of that. That's waste of time, waste of money somewhere along the line. So becoming efficient, but that doesn't, to me, feel like innovation.
yeah,
I think of innovation as much stronger than that, much bigger than that,
yeah.
much broader.
Well, I suppose, the lens we look down is more of that immediate problem where we have people building buildings speculatively
Yeah.
on the hope of bringing in an occupier business, and they have that decision-making process of, do I buy and install this stuff and fear that an occupier will come on and tell me to rip it all out?
Yeah.
And we see that as the reason why, well, it's a good excuse not to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas actually kind of assuming the person coming in has an innovation or a prop tech team
Yeah.
to ask the question, say, hey, I care about air quality and sensors. You're
Yeah.
like, well, that's where it's kind of pointing at each other, the Spider-Man meme of whose responsibility is it to find this stuff, implement it, and hope that it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where we kind of feel, well, my perspective of the last few years is that everyone's waiting for someone else to ask what they want and no one really knows.
But the tenant doesn't know what they want.
Yeah.
That's the other problem, isn't it? You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. But is there anything from the conversations you've had, are there things that are becoming, you picked on air quality earlier.
Yeah.
Are there things that are becoming more consistent? I interviewed a lawyer a couple of weeks ago, and cybersecurity is now becoming part of their heads of terms negotiation. Like, is there any major trends that you've seen across Europe or the UK?
I mean, I think across Europe, flexibility is the most important thing.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's flexibility in terms of lease, flexibility in terms of how the building's fitted out, just very simplistically.
Yeah.
Sustainability sits in with the flexibility model. I think from a technology point of view, which obviously we're talking about today, I think it's frictionless.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. Getting tech into a building which is frictionless.
Okay.
That's what I think people want. Nobody says, I really want it to be complicated so that only two of us can use it. People want it to be as simple as possible to use. And so for me, we've seen the hybrid working model is the new norm. I think we're never going to see a time when we go back 5 days, 9 to 5:30 with an hour for lunch. Those days are gone forever.
Yeah.
Hybrid working, which involves, people working from multiple locations, can be home, can be coffee shop, can be wherever. That's here to stay. I don't think that's ever going to change. So the technology that supports that remote working, hybrid working, call it what you want, that's the key thing for me that people want. They want that flexibility. So flexibility in systems, flexibility in how they fit the space out, flexibility how people work. As a employee, you want the flexibility to be able to have some time working in different locations. So that's what I think is the new norm. Flexibility on every level. Okay. But the landlord doesn't want flexibility in when they get paid. They want their rent, they want that check or transfer every month or quarter, whatever it is, which is understandable. That's what they're there for.
That's I suppose the dynamic of it. But I think it's, flexibility and hybrid working. There's obviously a massive boom in the pandemic of those solutions coming out of every corner of the planet to go, we've got this new booking thing. So is that, is that a conversation around the design has to include our flexibility? Or I suppose the question I keep going back to is like, the technology in a building doesn't determine whether someone takes their space.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's the determining factor, because if you're going to the grade A building and you want to be in the City of London or in Paris or in Milan, wherever, you know where you roughly want to be. And you're going to be able to get the technology to work. It might mean you have to trade off something else, might have to spend a little bit more money. I don't think the tech is the single most important thing. I think location generally pretty much alongside cost, they're the two which, no one's moving from, I don't know, we're here in central London to Plymouth because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
They won't be able to get their staff there. So that's crazy thought. It's the location is important, but there can be some flex in that. But everything is important. There's some businesses will higher index on tech, some will higher index on close to a train station.
Yeah.
Some will want to be, I don't know, have amazing views if that's the thing.
Yeah.
Some want to be, you've seen now innovation hubs coming up all around the country.
Okay.
And so, some businesses want to be in those innovation hubs where their peers are because they get shared ideas, and you're seeing that in some of the campuses to do with the universities.
Yeah.
That's been really, that's been a change that we've seen over the last few years.
Was that businesses putting their business near others where they can actually, essentially sponge off the knowledge and, the talent pool?
I mean, if you were to say, just picking labs as an example, you don't find many labs in the city, but you certainly find them near Oxford University or Cambridge University in the UK. If you were in different countries, you would see different angles for that as well. So I do think that people want to be close to their suppliers. That could be whatever supplying it may be, their peers, their clients. They want to be close to them. And if labor is the most important thing in a business, and everybody of a particular skill is in that particular area, then that's what happens. And I was out in Bulgaria recently and talking to our member out there, and going back 30, 40 years, Bulgaria was renowned for having a high degree of IT literate people. They went to that area, and a lot of businesses have come out of that area now that are in the IT sector. So you're seeing innovation or new businesses spawned by the expertise that in that area.
Yeah. So you have to be in the right location to attract those people to build those businesses up. So therefore you choose it. So we spend a lot of time with innovation technology companies that are very much believe in their product or service is the most important thing since sliced bread. And sometimes it is the difficult thing to hear that actually technology is important, but it doesn't make the decision between one builder and another. It's an important factor, but it's not the only factor.
No, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things I really want to touch on is you put a post up on LinkedIn, which spoke about the challenges of all the opportunities between those that lead on-site projects. So back to the world of design and build, where you want to have a trusted senior person leading a major project, but those people might not be tech literate. They might not be comfortable using AI or air quality sensors. And then you have the younger generation that are inherently tech savvy, that are kind of forward thinking, but haven't got the miles on the clock to deliver it.
Yeah.
When you have this big delta and the workspace is full of a big range of people now, with AI and it being the de facto conversation in most pubs or coffee shops at the moment, how do you see is it down to the juniors training the seniors training themselves? How do you see the role of the innovation being led between someone wanting a grey hair person to be the person leading the conversation and needing the young person to bring innovation into the conversation?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really tricky thing for the whole of the design and build or fit out industry at the moment. How do you square that circle? And I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there. And obviously the post I put out there was, my son is 19, so he's nearly 40 years younger than me. He adopts technology instantaneously, intuitively. You give him an app and he just knows his way around it straight away. You go on holiday and there's a new TV or whatever. They don't even think, they just know it. And I consider myself quite good with technology, but by no means an expert. And I'm thinking, wow, that's kind of impressive. Now, if you go to a site which we're talking about, let's say, I don't know, a 10 million euro fit out in a building, somebody's spending 10 million euros. They want to know that money is being spent wisely. They want to have trust and faith in the people who are delivering it. So you then go to delivery when it comes to projects. And when you're interview stage, you're bringing in your delivery person. And that person is going to be in charge of the money, is going to be in charge of health and safety, is going to be in charge of a plethora of subcontractors. And he's going to have tight timescales to deliver it. And he will encounter, as I say, he or she will encounter problems on projects. Every single fit out project always has a problem. The more projects you've run, the more chance you have of encountered that problem before and know what to do. So we would say, a little bit of gray hair when it comes to the delivery on a project is no bad thing. So that you've got that experience. However, with technology coming so quickly into our industry, there are apps for this and apps for that, and technology can really support the delivery of a project hugely. Not everybody of my age group is as tech savvy and able to adopt technology as quick as it's coming on the market. So we now have a situation where we have people who are hugely experienced, been round the clock, know, how to deliver a project very, very well.
Yeah.
But maybe a bit old school. And then you have younger people coming through who can potentially deliver the project, but don't have the experience and are using technology to support them. The key for us in our industry is finding the right people with the right technology. And that probably is the right mindset of people. That's the most important thing, because the technology is there.
Yeah.
So you have to train people. Now, if you say, well, I'm this age, I've always done it this way. Well, 150 years ago, you'd still be riding a horse while everybody was driving a car. So it's important that people of a certain generation are flexible and can easily adopt or be trained to adopt. That's the key. Good quality training, adopting the right processes or right technology. And then you can bring on board the younger people, the less experienced people, and they can also be teaching the elder people about how to use the technology.
Yeah.
And that more senior people or more experienced people can be showing the problems in real life before they become a problem.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting dynamic. You'd end up coming down and say, well, employ somebody who's right in the middle, who should be a bit above. But of course, that doesn't work, because we've got 4 generations in the workplace now at any one time. So squaring that circle is very, very interesting. And for me, it's about mindset. If you've got the right mindset, that age is a number.
Yeah,
really is. But if you say, well, I've always done it that way, much the same as I said about design with AI, if you even think we've always done it that way, you are going to get left behind. Doesn't matter which country, which company, what you are, you're going to get left behind.
Yeah. Do you find, though, in the rise of property technology is known to have more than 15,000 solutions, that number changes all the time?
There goes too many, isn't it?
Yeah. And I suppose in that site delivery and the processing, do you find there's the same impact of, well, I've got this property, I've got this operation management tool, and I've got this document signing, and I've got that automation, I've got this app for this. Do you think is it also fragmented in your sector as far as
hugely fragmented?
Which one do we use? And
yeah. Why would we be any different?
Yeah,
it's hugely fragmented, and that also comes from the investment that the fit out businesses, the design and build businesses want to make in their systems. If they don't embrace it and don't invest and don't bring it on board, then they'll get left behind. But how do you know you're investing in the right product?
Yeah,
it's the same. Doesn't matter the industry. It's all a bit of a leap of faith.
Yeah.
And as I said earlier, you've got your early adopters, you've got the people who are coming on board, who are going past, and then you've got those that are sitting and waiting and probably go bust.
Yeah. So do you think it's that big a deal that the guys who don't get it right will be just, that's it?
History suggests that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, how many people are designing using, a drawing board anymore?
Yeah. Hopefully not many.
There aren't, but there would have been some people who, steadfastly said, no, that's the way we
don't on a computer, going to hand draw it. Yeah.
For me, you have to change. Doesn't matter what your industry is, you have to change. It doesn't matter what your country is, you have to move with the times.
Yeah.
I came past here today, and there was some signs up about anti-social media, some organization anti-social media. Now, it's crazy. There's no way you can ever turn the clock back on it. So it's how do you legislate for it to be age appropriate? How do you use it correctly? What one person's platform is different to another, but you can't say, well, I don't want social media anymore. It's a nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably definitely a political conversation for another day. I suppose in the viewpoint of the Europeans, I think we often get asked of, when it comes to comparing buildings, accreditation badges, all those fun things. In the travels you've had across Europe, how is the UK perceived from an innovation perspective? Are we a leading light? Are we behind the Eastern Bloc innovation that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah.
Because there's certainly, when you look at different countries have always looked upon the UK market as being ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I think the UK is viewed as definitely one of the leading countries, economies in terms of bringing innovation to the market. One of the leading, not the sole leading one. There are some, and I think that is also down to potential lack of education about what some of the other countries who don't have that reputation, because the UK's reputation has been forged over 1,000 years. There's a reason, good and bad, why that is. So yeah, I think that the UK is definitely one of the market leaders, but in my experience, the UK is definitely not the most forward thinking in terms of adoption.
I was about to say the barriers to entry is.
Yeah, I mean, I think just look around and I was in Holland a few weeks ago, and the Dutch seem to be absolutely smashing it out the park in terms of embracing technology at all facets in their real estate world. I may be completely wrong when I say that, but it's just my experience of
it's just your lens of going the way in which they're talking about it is that we sometimes feel there might be a bit of sort of technology fatigue in the UK in real estate, and that we've been mature, we've been around the block, we're now looking back at the decisions we've made going, was that the right call? Should we change what we're doing? And whereas I think sometimes innovation is the fun, shiny thing and not the, we've done it, let's go back and look and go, what actually worked? We kind of always want it to be breaking new ground and difficult and, well, exciting.
Yes.
But actually sometimes some of the best lessons you can learn is by going to look at, well, what did you do in the last move? What was the last building did? What worked well, what didn't? Do you think that is a fair representation?
I definitely think that's true. And one of the benefits of Studio Alliance is with the 18 members, we do collaborate. The guys get together. We host a weekly online call and 3 conferences a year together. But on those weekly calls, we have different agenda each week, one of which is AI and technology.
Yeah.
So the representatives of the members come together as a team. So 18, I'll say techies, talk about things that I don't fully understand, but they're saying, well, we've embraced this new piece of technology, this new piece of kit. It's been amazing. Why don't you try this one? Looks great, terrible, waste of time. But that collaboration you can't get generally, because everybody's competing with everybody. And where we've created that kind of uniqueness, we have 18 businesses who are similar, not the same, and they can talk to one another because they don't compete. And that's invaluable.
So in that knowledge sharing, because real estate's pretty good at keeping everything to themselves because it's my unique IP and that's what makes me better. And I think the AI, the fight over data and access to those is going to hopefully change us to have to be a bit more open because we can tap into more open sources. But so do you think obviously you have 18 different members part of it. In the UK, do you think we're getting more open and sharing? This has been a good success. That's been bad. Are we?
No,
are we
I don't think so.
No.
Okay, definitely. No, I don't think so. I think if you took the 2 or 3 leading real estate companies in the UK, how much do you think they confer with one another and help one another? They don't. They look after themselves.
Yeah.
Your ex-employer from years ago, do they talk to their peer group? They might consult on a building about strategy to let or acquire, but I don't really think there's much collaboration going on. Everyone, looking after themselves, which is why we've created something which is different. That is unique. That doesn't mean there are other industries that don't do that. They do, but I don't think if there's a chance that you're going to give away something that makes your competitor stronger, you by definition make yourself weaker.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody's minded to do that.
Yeah, which sort of makes sense, but also I think is a real inhibitor because you've got one company pitching into every one of them.
Yeah, but it gives you a job, doesn't it? People like yourself, it gives you a purpose and a role because you're the people who have to cut through that.
Yeah.
And be independent and can genuinely learn from everybody and give true advice.
Yeah. And we like to share the knowledge we have. Exactly. I always say in any project we have, we don't get amnesia at the end of it.
Yeah.
Someone asked my opinion. It's like, I have done that before. I can probably answer that question straight away without us having to go on a very long protracted journey of, I'll do a discovery and look into it. It's like, I can share you my experience of it. And I think the challenge is often with those forums of technology going, we tried that, it was rubbish. And I think one of the things we find difficult is the technology moves so fast.
Yeah.
So that statement might torpedo that tech company's opportunity with that other company.
Yeah.
but in 6 weeks' time, they've fixed all those issues.
Yeah.
And you're coming back
That's
around.
fair.
And
Yeah.
that's sometimes a challenge of like, oh, they went into one building and they were rubbish. It's like, well, that was their second building ever. And they've now done 20 more and they're now brilliant. So sometimes that fatigue we're seeing is sort of reminding people that unlike real estate, technology is never finished.
Yeah, that's
fair. You kind of got to go back and say, if you're still going, you've probably done something right.
Yeah.
With the lack of venture capital out there, they're obviously running a profitable business, which in technology was a dirty word. It was scale and fail in 2018. Whereas I think longevity, especially in the conversations we have, is as important as the shiny tech of stuff that's out there.
Yeah, I think there's always something to be said about longevity.
Yeah, absolutely. Staying in the fight.
No question. But of course, you need the new businesses at every level in every industry to kind of keep the old ones going. And I started a business 26 years ago. But we're now 26 years old.
Yeah.
I still think of us as a young company, but clearly we're not. There's lots of people who've come along since then.
But I suppose that's a mindset, right? And how the guys now running it, you keep in the dogged startup mindset to keep scrapping away as opposed to resting on your laurels.
And you have to reinvent yourself every generationally. You have to go again. You have to, you can't keep doing what you did. Because if you do, you get left behind. And that's where, super successful companies have done that, reinvented themselves. I'm a massive football fan, and you see the top teams, they're reinventing, they're changing, and they stay near the top all the time because they know how to do it.
And do you feel like we're in a moment now where the industry is having to reinvent itself?
Yeah, I think so. I think that now we've settled on the hybrid working model. That's the way we are working. I think technology has to really focus on that as the solution.
Yeah.
At every level, which is flexibility.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I could probably go on with you for topics of all sorts of different amount of things I'm thoroughly enjoying, but I'm conscious of your time. We've got two questions we always ask every guest at the end of it. One of which is, what technology do you wish people knew more about today that they don't know enough about?
Well, I'm a converter to ChatGPT along with most of the world.
Yeah.
And I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I cannot understand now why everybody isn't using it at all times.
Yeah.
And the ways of abusing it, you can't have school kids doing their exams using it. But I think it's fantastic. And I think all the spin-offs that you get from that, I think it's life-changing, game-changing in every level. So we all know it's there, but not everybody feels comfortable using it. And I was talking to somebody just yesterday, and that was it. And they have a company policy where they're not allowed to use AI in the office. And this is somebody in the fit out world, different business. They're not allowed to use AI and I thought to myself, that is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
So for me, it's embracing whatever works for you, but being able to embrace it and work with it. I'm not really giving you a great answer there.
We've had lots of different responses. It's about AI has been one that's been a pretty common theme. That if you're not investing, learning, curious, testing it, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, there's Perplexity, there's huge models, Lovable. There's a huge amount of raft of things out there, and they've all got different strengths and weaknesses. They can hallucinate. They're not right. You probably need a bit of training about how to use it as a business without giving away, uploading your pricing for a tender document for someone to proofread, which means that someone else could find it.
Yeah.
You need to put some guardrails on it to make sure internally businesses can use it. The joke I wanted to say is that I bet the person you spoke to has a head of innovation within his company.
No,
her company.
No, they're a relatively small business.
Okay, fine. Well, maybe they need one then as a starting place.
No, they don't. It's the worst job ever.
I know, I'm joking. So the second question, or the final question, is in innovation. I did ask it earlier, but maybe the conversation might have changed your thinking about it. Is in the world of innovation in real estate, who should be leading the drive on technology, the landlord, the occupier, or the property manager?
It's not 100% and 0-0.
Yeah.
I think it's probably 40% occupier and then split the rest 30-30.
Okay, so you've railed it back a bit.
I have, but I do think ultimately, because they do pay for everything.
Yeah.
That it's got to work for the occupier at the end of the day. That's probably the most important thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things which the landlord puts in, like, I don't know, air sensor we talk about, that can work for the occupier. It's got to be nuanced that it's good for the occupier.
Yeah.
More so than others.
Yeah. But the occupier really should be the one that is driving it, because they're ultimately paying for it and potentially getting the benefit from it.
I believe so. If you're gonna push it down one, you can only give one answer. That would be the answer I would give.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you. I always appreciate people actually give one answer as opposed to, all of them together. It's like, okay, well, let's pick one, because the analogy of, we assume that someone's doing something and actually often no one is doing anything about it. So someone's got to be the person that's the flag carrier to drive this stuff forward. Otherwise we keep delivering the same things and, the same buildings get churned out over and over again.
Yeah.
But yeah, brilliant. Well, Clive, look, I really, really appreciate the conversation. We've touched on all manner of things. The car analogy is one that I'm definitely going to use again on upgrading your smart car is simple and attractive, whereas your office building is complicated and annoying. So that's great. But no, thanks so much for your time.
Okay, thanks. Been a pleasure. Thanks, Freddie.
Brilliant. Cheers, mate.